I usually take 6 or 7 months to write notes and to make the concept for a game, to try it out, to play test it, and to gather a lot of information and to define it as a setting. Once I do that and I'm ready to go, I really cannot finish something unless I have the pressure to finish it. I'm sure that many creatives are like that.
Hi, welcome to the Dieku podcast. I'm Gary Snow, and I'm here with Gavriel Quiroga. Gavriel, pleased to meet you, and thanks for coming today.
Pleased to meet you too, Gary. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, Gavriel has an awesome new Kickstarter called Hell Knight that I'm really excited by, and I was a big fan of Warpland, and I'm super excited to get into those details, but you're going to have to stay tuned because first of all, I want to know, how did you get started in role-playing games?
Great. I started playing with role-playing games at around 15 years old in high school with my friends. We decided to buy a book. We didn't know what the hell we were doing with it. We bought the Player's Handbook D&D second edition manual. So we tried to figure out how to play with that. It was very difficult without any guidance at all. So it took us several months until we finally managed to get a hang of it.
Yeah.
I remember in those days, there was very little internet articles or sources. So I remember there was a French web called Le Jeu de Rôle, and we like translated from French to Spanish and trying to figure out how to play. And well, in the end, we managed, and we never stopped since then. I still role play with those guys.
Right from 15 years old onward, you've been playing with the same, same crew?
Yes. Yeah.
And I've seen your
not constantly, but with backs and forths, yes.
Yeah, and I've seen pictures of you and your crew on Instagram, and it looks like you always have a fun time with them.
Yes, we are a cool bunch. Yes, we like to enjoy ourselves, have hot drinks, and always inviting guests, people that are non-RPG gamers. I'm always looking forward to invite people from that are not within the community to try it out. And I have to say that maybe 50% of the playtesters are non-RPG gamers.
Oh, that's probably
that's very good for me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's very good.
I should note you're in Argentina, because not everybody knows that you're in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and so that's
in Buenos Aires. Yes.
Yeah.
It's the summertime in here.
And beautiful city, beautiful country. I mean to go back there in the future. I really, I was there once, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. And I know me and my wife actually got married there. So we're excited to go back on our 10-year anniversary, which I don't off the top of my head remember. So don't tell her though.
Oh, it's a lovely country. The only problem is the Argentinians.
I thought it was the Uruguayans that were the problem.
No, those are very, very good guys. Yes.
So where did you go from playing, and then all of a sudden you said, you know, I'm going to design a game? Was that something that happened early on?
I think I always have a creative edge on everything I do. I'm also a musician and a writer. And I think that from the moment I started DMing or being a dungeon master, I started like tweaking my own home rules and making my own settings, and it all came out effortless or naturally for me. So I have always been designing or making stuff, but only recently in the last 3 years I started taking this seriously as a way of living.
So what was your first product that you created that you said, I'm going to sit down and I'm actually going to make something?
My first product was Neurocity. I made it in Spanish, mainly to distribute it locally, but it was not much of a success. The book was, I have to I have to say that the setting is a bit difficult to grasp, or maybe it's not what everybody could be used to it, because they're not. That's the reason why there are not many dystopian settings around in RPGs. The only famous dystopian setting per se, I think, it's Paranoia, and they have to settle with a comedy angle in order to sell it or to make it popular. It becomes very bleak to play in a proper dystopian setting.
I was actually going to ask you about that, because I'm a big fan of Paranoia. And when I was reading yours, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of similarities. But like you said, you don't treat it too jokingly. And I think the players that I've seen post on your Facebook group really kind of enjoy that. There's a certain amount of, they like the darkness of the city. But just explain the setting to everybody that's at home.
Yes, well, Neurocity is a city that's in a closed environment. It is never explained why. What are the reasons? Part of the interesting thing about the setting is finding out what's behind the scene. How come things are the way they are? It is managed by a supercomputer, by an intelligent artificial intelligence, and the whole society is divided by a caste system, and players are operatives within that system that are handled different tasks to perform at the request of the supercomputer. And eventually the idea is to find out that there's something very wrong behind the scene, and there is a very interesting stress mechanic that works with that also as well. So there is always the dilemma of obeying authority despite what your morality states, and that disobedience carries a stress, and the more stress you build up, the worse consequences you will have for your PC. So it demands a lot of involvement from the part of the player, because it asks that you confront a lot of maybe your particular beliefs, maybe as a player.
I wanted to ask you about this quote by Klaus Kinski in the front of it. How did you find this? What was the inspiration of including it?
Klaus Kinski, for me, it's a very polemic. Does the word polemic exist in English? Polemic? I'm not sure.
You're talking about the actor, correct?
Yes,
yes.
The actor.
And so he's a German actor and prolific. That's probably lots of movies. I think he's been in over 200 movies over his career.
Yes, he's very interesting for me. I do not agree with most of the things he says. I do not agree with him as a person, but I somehow value him as an actor. And I saw a documentary about him of his early ages, and he was saying a poem, an improvised poem. It was a footage of that poem, and that's a phrase of that improvised poem.
Yeah, he's a fascinating character. Like, I've seen him in interviews, and he's very edgy and
he's totally crazy, yes. But I think that phrase sums up a lot of what Neurocity is about, like striving for freedom or the individuality despite everything, despite the whole system being against you.
And the design of it kind of has that 1970s technology, 1980s technology that at least that's my take on it. But what was kind of the artistic inspiration that you came across?
I think you might notice that I'm a big fan of all the retro mania or the nostalgia, and I think that I really wanted to make a cyberpunk setting that did not have such an emphasis on technology. So that all the technology at least was more analog inspired. So I had to figure out a way to insert that into the storyline. My idea was that because it is a closed environment, the city, it has to constantly recycle itself, and that constant recycling of technology generates an involution of technology from the digital age to the analog age. And that fits very well to go back to a 80s aesthetic. So I think it all makes a lot of sense for me. It also, of course, 1984, the George Orwell novel, is a big inspiration for the book. So that fits as well with the theme. A lot of inspiration from 80s comic books as well.
And instead of Big Brother, the artificial intelligence is named Isaac, correct?
Yes, it is named Isaac. It means intelligent singular artificial consciousness. That artificial character belongs to a previous story from me I made. So I'm using it. I also use it for I made 3 EPs, extended plays of albums, and they're all based around the idea of Isaac.
Well, it's what I really appreciate about it is that you do leave it open-ended, and there's a lot of mysteries, because a lot of settings, and you tell me if you, it sounds like that was your desire, is to keep it so people can explore, and there's no real legend or lore or canon that they have to stick to. They can make it up as they go.
Yes, I think that's for me is a key point of everything I do. I really want the readers or the table to make their own game or their own experience of the game. So even I can play in another table of Neurocity and be surprised by everything, because the whole experience will be totally different. I always try to give inspiration or ideas to inspire a lot of plot hooks, so they can it's like a labyrinth, no, of inspiration, of ways to go. And the book comes also with 5 origin possibilities of what Neurocity could be, but it's all open-ended. Everybody, most people, even they do their own take on that.
Yeah. And so how did you end up selling that from Argentina? Like, what was the steps that you had to take in order to get people to buy it? Because that was like 2015-ish, I think, that it came out. And how difficult was it? Did you just go to Drive Through RPG?
Well, I had to do a lot of research. First, I didn't have a clue how to crowdfunding worked. After I read a lot of tutorials and articles about that, I understood that the best way to do it is to start. It's handling myself through a platform like Drive Through RPG that could print on demand. So then I did a campaign, and I made a very big effort of marketing my stuff, of talking about that in forums, in social media, and explain why is it different, why I think that this could be interesting for some people, because I don't think that that this particular theme has been touched by RPGs. I think that's very important, that if you're going to do something, it must have an edge, something that really makes it stand out from everything. So at the beginning, they said, okay, it's just another Paranoia clone. And it was like, no, but I mean, it's like the difference between Brazil, the movie, or 1984. It's like totally different stuff,
Yeah.
You play Paranoia to laugh about it. And you play Neurocity, you want to really delve into some serious themes. So after I did that, the crowdfunding was somewhat successful. It was a good, I think it was a good project for me, a good start. After that, I did a Facebook group that had some followings. I had very good interviews. I had very good reviews, very good feedback from the community. A lot of people that helped me to spread awareness of the project. I think that the RPG community is very supporting in that sense. If they see that you are that you have the passion in a project and you're really striving for it, they're really. I was surprised by how helpful and they are with me. That I was practically an outsider of the community. I was never much into the RPG online community.
Yeah. Well, it's a really good product, and I wasn't aware of it, or I wasn't even aware of you until I saw Warpland pop up on my radar, and I immediately went, okay, I'm backing this, and I'm going to show you later on. My name's a little tiny in the back of it, so.
Oh, great! Well, you made it happen then. You helped
I made it. Making the dream happen. But so tell us how from 2015 you released Neurocity or Neurocity, I've heard some people call it. Mm-hmm. So then you started, how soon did you wait until you started working on Warpland? And kind of like, what was the inspiration behind that genre?
I think I started thinking about it about 1 or 2 months after I finished Warpland. I usually take a couple of months, like a break. And then I started, doing the conceptual thinking about how to do a science fantasy setting. At the beginning, it was Warpland was originally going to be like a simulation within Neurocity. It was going to be like a virtual reality simulation for the higher hierarchies of the society of Neurocity. And I thought, oh, it would be cool if the simulation would have like fantasy aspects or like medieval aspects. Why not? And then it eventually evolved into what it was something separate, but Warpland still might be a simulation within Neurocity.
Well, I saw you had some.
We don't know. It's also open-ended. But
I saw you had 3 hooks within Warpland and how you could integrate it with.
Yes, that is one of the possibilities, of course.
Yeah. And when you started doing the graphic design, who helped you along the way on that? As far as like divining the sense and the style of it.
With Warpland.
Yeah.
With Warpland, Nicolás Chicola helped me a lot. There's also Marina Gulia. There's also Laurie Hughes that's helping me a lot with some consulting with my new project Hell Knight. There are a lot of friends that I have that I'm always having feedback back and forth with them. I think that's very important to have what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Even from the community, Andy Lennon helped me a lot with a lot of the writing within it. It's like I have to say that the amount of people that collaborated to make it happen, must be around dozens. I think that part of the style of Warpland is maybe a bit hectic, also a lot influence from comic book styles like heavy metal or metal Harland. I'm a big fan of that.
And why did you choose the 8.5 by 8.5 sizing for both Neurocity and Warpland?
Well, the same thing that I talked about the setting, that we need to have that distinguish themselves from the others. I thought that okay, the size make a symmetric size would be something that might be appealing to the public, and making it the same size as Neurocity you create a sort of analogy between both settings, like two sides of the same coin.
And how much do you get into the details of like, do you do mostly the writing and the visualization of what you want it to be, or do you get into the layout and the design of it?
I am behind everything. I don't have the skills to do designing. That's why I work with people that can stand up with me, can bear me, my obsessive compulsive disorders. So yeah, it's a team that indulges me a lot and helps me a lot to take take me to the vision I have of the product. So yes, I am behind everything from the typography, from the font to the color we are using. Yeah, the writing is all 95% done by me. Yeah, mostly everything.
That's great. And I know people love this poster, and I think it was an add-on or a stretch goal for the Warpland game.
No, it was not.
No.
It ended up being a stretch goal. I am a big fan of Bruce Pennington, and actually I'm a big fan of that particular piece. And I'm such a big fan that I wrote an email to Bruce, and I explained to him why this painting is so important for me and for this particular work. And he graciously accepted to lend it for the project. He said, no problem. I only asked for 2 copies of the book. I said, okay, thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much. And yes, it was an honor for me. I cannot believe I have a Bruce Pennington art within the book.
Well, it's incredible. I know people love it. And then, so the Kickstarter was successful. You had a lot of backers, and then
forgot. Yeah, one of the stretch goals ended up being a Bruce Pennington poster of the book with the Warpland, and it looked like a movie poster.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And you still have it for sale, I think, digital at least, on Drive-Thru-RPG.
It's on sale for only $1. It's no profit for me. Anybody can buy it for $1, the poster.
Yeah, it looks awesome. So check it out on Drive-Thru. And then at what point are you now doing game design full time, or do you have a day job that you do game design in your spare time still?
I am particularly blessed that I have been only working on this since the last 2 years. So yes, it's a full-time job for me. I have to say that I can manage because I live in a third world country, so probably the currency helps me a lot to do that. But I'm doing more than okay. I'm very grateful for the support of the community and for allowing me to live doing what I love.
So you now realize everybody's going to move to Argentina.
Yeah, great. Yeah, more. Great. Wonderful. Make the community grow here. We need that. We need that because there's not much appreciation, especially for the OSR movement in here. People still are a bit adamant to try independent creations. Well, they sort of play Pathfinder or like a mainstream stuff.
I know in Brazil's got a really dynamic community. And
Brazil is incredible, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you attribute that to, as far as like, it seems like between your game and everybody that's working hard in Brazil, you guys are really putting out some unique stuff. What do you attribute that to?
With Brazil, I think they in their defense they have probably their market must be 10 times the size of Argentina. They write in Portuguese, so they sort of feed themselves from their own product because there are not so many Portuguese speaking people or books in RPGs. So they created a very nice community, and yeah, their OSR products, they kick ass. They are amazing.
Yeah, really good stuff. And then so you finished Warpland, that's successful, and then right away, what did you jump into?
I immediately jumped into Asset. That's a card game, an RPG card game, in which you interpret an ascetic monk in search for enlightenment while being beset by the temptations of demons. That the whole story is inspired with the Saint Anthony, from the story of Saint Anthony. So basically, I thought it was I had a mechanic that I wanted to try that used dice and cards, and also Laurie Hughes helped me with aesthetics. It had a very minimal aesthetics. It was a very nice experience to do something that removed a bit from the classic RPG thing. It touched, well, card games. It's an entirely different genre, or
like
stuff.
You cleansed the palate, and you were ready to kind of get back into role-playing games after doing something different.
After doing Asset,
yeah. Well, you used Asset to kind of just change things up a bit, and then when did Darkship, the Mothership supplement, come out?
Yes, Darkship came out because I published a system that was based on the Tulu hack for Mothership, for the RPG, for the sci-fi RPG Mothership. And Rodrigo Vega, that's a very good graphic designer from Argentina. He's also an illustrator. He's a fan of Mothership, and he came to me and said, why don't we do something good with this? Why don't we make it into a good supplement for Mothership? And said, okay, let's go. And he made this. I think that the aesthetics are super cool. We are probably going to do something else with him next. We're probably going to do the same, but inspired more in 60s sci-fi, like Star Trek or those kind of movies. That I think that's a different take from Mothership. You know, Mothership is 80s sci-fi, aliens or Event Horizon, and this will be more into Star Trek.
Cool.
The aesthetics are different. You know, they're more white, more minimal.
Yeah.
More about the Federation, more about exploring space. It's a bit more humanitarian, I think. It's different. I think it will be a good experience. And also it will be based with using the Tulu hack, that I think that it's absolutely great as a stress mechanic. I think that it works. Honestly, I think it works better than Mothership with the stress mechanic, but I haven't seen the new Mothership yet.
Yeah,
I read the Alien RPG that has a very nice stress mechanic as well.
Yeah. So no shortage of projects that you have on your plate, and then all of a sudden you had this epiphany that you're going to create Hell Knight. How did that come to be? Like, what was the inspiration there?
Yes, Hell Knight. Well, I also wanted to do something different. At first, I wanted to do a horror RPG. When I saw Mandy from Panos Cosmatos, the movie that stars Nicolas Cage, I fell in love with the demon bikers characters. I think they were called the Black Skulls. And I thought it would be really cool to play demonic bikers in the 80s Earth. So I had to think of a way to do that, to express a setting that it made it logical to play that. So yeah, that's I love those are the guys. Those are the demonic riders. So yeah, the idea was to play something that was ultra violent, and you could go around indulging yourself in violence, but still we have to give them a reason to do that. So I thought that the reason could be that because Lucifer or Satan was missing from hell, all hell is breaking apart and in a state of turmoil. And what that causes is that a few archdemons, the rulers of the different circles in hell, are beginning to escape, and they are rampaging on a rampage on Earth. So you would have to interpret these demonic characters that have to go to Earth to grab these guys and to grab these fugitives and bring them back to hell, or kill them or destroy them. So we started trying that, playtesting that, and we quickly figured out that it's not only horror, the appealing behind that, but also humor. It has a lot of black comedy behind it. So we started exploring the comedy aspect of that with the violence, and it fitted perfectly the whole B-movie atmosphere, because I think that horror B-movies of that era had a lot of black comedy and a lot of violence. So it all fit together. I think it fit wonderfully together. Yes, I'm very stoked about that project.
Yeah, and the comedy, I think, helps because you can't just have something all violent. You got to have kind of balance it off a little bit to kind of alleviate the tension of just the violence, and it's a good balance.
If not, you are left with only tension, like Neurocity. Neurocity is pure tension. That's why I think that the game has a lot of fans that are a bit reluctant to play it, because to have the correct mindset to play it, it's like a lot. I myself don't play it that much. It's like, okay, I'm going to play this. It's like, whoa. It's like going to the worst, roller coaster that you only go when you are really prepared to do it. Yeah. It's like that.
So you put it out on Kickstarter, and let me just run through some of the details. The deadline to back it is January the 22nd. So you chose a 60-day window, I think, or thereabouts.
Yes.
Is that kind of typical, or did you learn from previous Kickstarters that you wanted it to go longer?
I think I do. I do something very different, because I usually take 6 or 7 months to write notes and to make the concept for a game, to try it out, to play test it, and to gather a lot of information and to define it as a setting. Once I do that and I'm ready to go, I really cannot finish something unless I have the pressure to finish it. I'm sure that many creatives are like that. So I found that launching the campaign and writing and finish it worked for me. At least for me, it worked. This is what I have done with my previous 3 projects. So I gathered the whole team, and when I gathered the team, I said, okay, we're going to launch the project, the campaign now. We have to finish this in 60 days. Are we all ready to go? Yes. Okay, launch the campaign. And then we start, and I'm basically working on this 7 days a week. And every day.
And the size of it, like if I look at Neurocity was about 130 pages, and Warpland is about 150 pages, and this one's going to be 60 to 70 pages. And I'm not saying you're not getting your money's worth in it, but what made you decide to kind of go not only a different page count, but also a different size compared to what you had done before?
I wanted to present something that was a bit more condensed, particularly suited for short storylines. So the system is a condensed version of Warpland. That's why I'm also doing like a condensed book, but I wanted to go with premium quality in everything. That's why I'm going offset printing with this book. I'm aiming for a hardcover. I think we might be able to achieve the final stretch goal of the hardcover with 666 backers.
So if you're listening at home, I think last time I checked, it was at 450, and by the time this airs, it's probably going to be 666. But if not, if you can get it up to 666, it's going to go from a soft cover to a hard cover.
Yes, I think we will reach that. So it will be a really premium boutique, small size product that I think that it fits very well with the theme. The idea of the game is that you can set up a session with just a few hours of preparation. You can decide to play this like you get together and say, hey, should we play? Okay, let's play. And just with the random tables and everything in the book, you can manage a session. We actually try to play test it in that way.
And so for as cheap as $8, they can get a digital $8 US. That's a PDF digital version. And then the next step up is 26 for the perfect bound, but that could be a hardcover. And then after that, I think it goes up to like 46 or something. Sorry if I don't have that handy, but that's for the add-on of the hardcover book. I think there's an add-on.
No, you can buy. There's no hardcover option for Hell Knight. The $45 option is to buy a Warpland hardcover made in offset print and premium colors.
Okay, got it.
You can buy an exclusive hardcover edition of Warpland if you like. That's also many people are buying it because I think that for me the only disadvantage of Warpland was doing it print on demand through drive-through. It was very practical for me, but there is no denial that there is a big difference between a print-on-demand product and a offset printing.
Yeah.
So many people asked for a hardback, so now I wanted to give them an opportunity to buy that. I wanted to say also that one of the advantages of doing the project with the crowdfunding is that I can adjust the project to the funding I have. So I think that it's also a very advantage because the backers, I always insist that each penny they put into the project will have as a consequences a better product. Because I say, okay, now we have this budget. Okay, let's hire this illustrator. Now we have this budget. Okay, let's add a couple of pages. Let's hire this writer. That's great for me because I have an accurate picture of what budget I have.
And so let's talk about your stretch goals and some of them that are still outstanding. I mean, I think you've already achieved half of them, and I'm sure if by the time this airs, you'll have achieved more. But just talk about how you. Yeah, well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So what kind of stretch goals and what made you come up with these as far as having them as stretch goals?
I think that stretch goals are a big part of every Kickstarter campaign. People really want to see that the value of the product increases as the campaign evolves. There were many people that approached me that they really liked the concept of Hell Knight and they wanted to participate. So I thought that adding them in the stretch goals was a big opportunity to do that, to help my friends that always helped me in my previous projects and to give something back to them. Because all of them are people that I admire a lot. Well, Philippe Renaud from the Coup Critique channel is very passionate about RPGs. Andy Lennon is a superb writer. He's to my knowledge, I think he's one of the best writers in the community. Well, the 100-gram paper that keeps adding more value to the product. Subhuman, the commission artwork by Subhuman. She's an amazing Colombian artist. I think that we will probably hear a lot from her. She will probably be she's a great cover illustrator for heavy metal bands. I absolutely love her work. Diogo Nogueira, well, he's a famous guy. He's the most famous South American guy. He won an Emmy with his products. Solar Weather, she always appeared in all my games. There's a collage artwork in Neurocity. There's a collage artwork from Sol in Warpland. Well, the Hellnight poster, and the super mystery stretch goal that I will not disclose.
Not even a hint? Not even a hint?
No, not yet. But it will be worthwhile. It will be super cool.
And then just for those that aren't familiar with your 2D6 system, why don't you just describe it a little bit so that they can get a kind of an idea of what like the game mechanics that you choose are?
Yes, for sure. I think that well, when I started with Neurocity, the first response from the community was, why are you not using an already established system? That is a very valid criticism, and that's something that probably make things easier for a starting artist or a creator. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to use a system that was made, that was tailor-made for the setting. I was not entirely happy with the stress mechanics we used or that I found. So I ended up doing like a sort of Frankenstein using all the systems I liked. I had a very clear picture that if I want to present a novel system, it needs to be super easy to learn, because truth is that most RPG gamers, they are pretty comfortable with their system, and they will only use a new system if it's like very easy to understand. They will only, okay, it's not so difficult, let's give it a try. So this is super simple. We teach it to non-RPG gamers in 15 minutes. It's just, you need to roll 2d6, roll under the stat. If you manage to do it, roll equal or under the stat. If you manage to do it, you are successful. And then you have negative modifiers that apply directly to the stat, depending on the difficulty of the task. And that's basically it. It's super simple and super understandable. It works a bit like blackjack in that aspect. You need to get as close as you can to the target number without surpassing it. The closer you get, the more successful you are in that action. So it creates a lot of spectrum of how good you were at doing that particular stat. And I also added complications to the dice roll. I think that complications are a must for me in RPGs. Complications that can happen both in successes and in failures, because complications keep the action going forward. Create a lot of uncertainty for the dungeon master, for the GM, and it's very good. Well, that's I think we learned from Blades in the Dark.
Yeah.
I think it has to happen in every system. And also it uses a lot of black hack. So it's basically a more streamlined black hack with a bit more dynamic, in my opinion, a nicer take on stats attributes.
And what are the attributes that you chose?
For Hellnight, we are using guts, style, and brains. So guts will take care of all the physical and courage and attacking aspects. Style will take care of social related skills, but also the grace of movements and the athletics of the character. And brains will be all about the knowledge and the quick thinking of the guy and all the mental stat. So it's like super easy to play, very easy to understand, easy to grasp, easy to handle for the GM, appropriate for a sandbox setting or an improvised setting or for a one shot that suddenly poured out at the last moment.
And then you have 5 classes or duties, as they're called in the game.
Yes, they are called duties because every demon in hell should have a duty. The 5 classes are slayers, that they are some type of barbarians in hell. They are like the fighter class. Then you will have reapers, that are the classic death guy that comes when you die. Reapers were formerly witches that when they died, hell acknowledged their service and give them a duty as reapers instead of tormenting their souls for eternity. And then you have revenants that they are inspired in, the revenant is a concept itself, I think, from the English folklore, but that concept was taken by the crowd. So it's basically a guy that dies, and hell gives them an opportunity to live again in exchange for a service. These guys will also have like a guardian, some type of mascot that watches over them. Could be a bird, could be a little monster. There are several examples or options. You have usurpers, that these demons are experts at possessing mortal vessels. So the interesting thing about this class is that you roll to play which mortal you are possessing, and if that mortal dies, you get to roll again to see which other mortal, and that keeps on a loop. Mm-hmm. So you keep like interpreting very weird guys. You can start like a priest, and then up being like a heavy metal dude with a guitar. It's very funny, and it encourages that slapstick aspect of ultra violence, but keep on being there. You do not die. Like I think Paranoia does something like that with the constant recycle of bodies. And then the fallen, that are fallen angels, that guys that their wings got clipped and they are on earth trying to find a way to go back to heaven, and maybe hunting fugitive demons and take them back to hell will be a way to earn their reward, to earn their place back in heaven.
And then,
so the 5 classes are very different and very distinct. They are packed with different random tables, and a lot of customizations. So they are all very different, are all with their own flavor and individuality. So the character creation aspect is very fun in Hell Knight particularly.
And what a team did you assemble to put this together? Are there some from Warpland that you brought with you, and who else is kind of jumping on board for some of the really cool graphics that you're doing?
Regarding the play testers?
Well, the play testers and the design, like graphic designs and
yes, well, we have a part of the playtesting team is from Warpland, and the other part is a couple of guys that got interested in Warpland. They're also Argentinians, and they are interested in trying out my games. Regarding the designing team, Laurie Hughes is also helping me. I am working with a great fanzine artist, Tomás Spicoli. He's almost a legend in these parts. He's a musician and a fanzine artist. He has like 30 years of experience. He does everything in an old school way. He does not use internet at all. Everything he uses is from his archives, his own archives. So I think that it's great to be able to launch a product that has that looks so artisan. Mm-hmm. So DIY, right?
Yeah.
Do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's definitely on that philosophy.
But I'll put a link to his Instagram, and it's really cool. He's got like, that kind of skateboard, 80s, 90s skateboard aesthetic.
Yeah, he's an artist genius in that aspect. I'm already fighting with him a lot.
Who's gonna win?
No, I respect his work, so he will always win. That's why I learned to give space to these guys, because they deserve their space.
And you are distributing it through Exalted Funeral and getting it printed at Mixam this time around.
Mm-hmm.
And did you approach them, or did they approach you, or do you can you even tell us? Because I think Exalted Funeral does a great job, and every indie developer, game developer would probably love to have a partnership with them. So good for you to have that happen.
Yes, yes. I actually approached them a couple of months ago. They were very friendly with me. They were very interested in working with me, but they reasonably said that they needed to see the product first, like I think most publishers do. And I explained to them the way I worked, that they will not be able to see any product at all until the campaign ended, because I do not work in that way. So we keep having some backs and forths until I launched the Kickstarter campaign, and they saw the Kickstarter campaign and said, okay, let's work. So that's very good. I'm very glad with them. I'm very honored to be working with them, because I absolutely think that their catalog is the best in the business. Absolutely. Yeah. I like their style and their aesthetics. Very, very stoked about working with them.
So I know we're coming to the end of our time together. And is there any advice that you could give designers that like see your success story and go, I want that? How do I get that? What advice would you give them?
I think that you have to, a couple of things you must do is that you must concentrate on your edges, your advantages, and use your disadvantages as an edge also, and acknowledge them. Not try to copy anybody, but still strive for your own style, and don't be afraid to go with your reference guys to the people you admire, to ask for some counseling, because the industry is really, the community is really helpful and really supportive of everybody, that they know they have the passion to do that. And also do a lot of research, watch a lot of videos, see a lot of tutorials, ask a lot. How do you do this? How can I do that? Yeah, do your homework, of course, and concentrate on what you do best.
Well, that's great advice, and I really appreciate you being here today. And I'm a backer for Hell Knight, so I'm looking forward to getting it in my hands. And just once again, January 22nd is the deadline. And what percentage are you done of it, do you think, right now?
Of the book?
Yeah.
The written part is almost 80%. Now we have to design the whole book. But I know I have been working on this, as I said, for 7 months. So this for me is the easiest part. But yeah, also a bit is you need to work a lot as a team in this stage, at this stage. So you need to be on top of everything, on the social media and all the whole team, that they need to work like a single organism, or focus for the project.
That's great. Maybe you'll come back sometime and tell everybody how the Kickstarter went, because I think there's a lot of people that would love to kind of know behind the scenes of how you run your Kickstarters, and basically you're kind of working without a net. You're like writing it on the fly, so that's pretty cool. That's interesting to see. And once again, I really like your products. Big fan of yours, and I'm really happy you could join us here today.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you kindly for what you do, that I think is very important for us creators.